so glad you were able to join us this evening. I'm still glad you were able to join us this evening. So thank you for being here, and the board is in position so that we can say how proud we are of those we're going to recognize this evening. First of all, I'd like to call up Gianna Harvey from Walnut Springs. Gianna marked her 8th grade year at Walnut Springs by joining the wrestling team for the first time. And in your first year, you served as co-captain, and she won the state championship in her weight class at the 2023 Ohio Junior High Girls and Freshman Wrestling State Championships at the Covelli Center in March. Congratulations to you. Get there. And I want to acknowledge Pete Wegley, who is the wrestling coach at Walnut Springs, who's in the audience this evening. Mr. Wegley. Now I'd like to call up Olivia Pace from Westerville Central. Olivia. Olivia had a record season this year. She is the state champion in the 60-meter dash at the 2023 Indoor State Track Championship in March, making her a 3-time champion in that event. She's also the state runner-up in the long jump at the indoor meet. And at the Ohio High School Athletic Association's outdoor track and field meet earlier this month, she is the state champion in the long jump and the state runner-up in the 100-meter dash. Congratulations to you, Olivia. Now I'd like to call up Amari Kaluvia. Amari is the state runner-up in 100-meter hurdles at the OHSAA State Outdoor Track and Field Meet. That's phenomenal. Congratulations. And next is Elijah Harris. Elijah is the state runner-up in the triple jump at the indoor state track meet and a state qualifier in the high jump at the outdoor state track meet. Congratulations. Taryn Stills, can you join me? Taryn also had a wonderful year. Taryn is the state runner-up in high jump at the indoor state track meet. Congratulations, Taryn. For our last recognition at Westerville Central, can Olivia come back up to the front? And also, would Deja Curry-Brown, Angel Ward, and Olivia Mentlow join us as well? These 4 remarkable young women represent Westerville Central's girls 4x200 meter relay team. They were the state runner-up in the 4x200 relay race at the indoor state track meet. Phenomenal job. Congratulations. And I would like to acknowledge Coach David Mentlow in the audience. There's Mentlow. And also Central's athletic director, Andy I. in the back. Thank you both for all you do. Now we'll move on to Westerville North High School. I'd like to invite Ben Gableman from Westerville North to join me up front. Ben followed up last year's 4th place finish in the 1,600 meter race at the Ohio High School Athletic Association State Track and Field Meet by becoming the state runner-up in the 1,600 meter race this year. He recently placed 8th in the country in the boys championship mile race at the 2023 New Balance Nationals outdoor meet and was named to the New Balance all-national team. Well done. And I'd like to acknowledge Coach Johnny Jackson. There he is. Okay, now I need to go buy New Balance tennis shoes. And from Westerville South High School, I'd like to invite Marissa Saunders to join me. Marissa wrapped up her high school track career with 4 OCC titles and placed 4th in the 100-meter hurdles at this year's outdoor track and field meet. She also lowered her own school records in the 100-meter hurdles and 60-meter hurdles. She was the state runner-up in the 60-meter hurdles at the Indoor State Track Championship. Congratulations. And I'd like to acknowledge Coach Jimmy Gall. There's Jimmy. And Principal Mike Hinsey, who's in the back. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you to the families who support these young people, the educators who are with them, the staff members who bring them along every step of the way. Congratulations to all. Say something.
Out here, or maybe like a long jump pit. Oh, did you want him? Was he coming up? Somebody else?
We're discombobulated, we're fine. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
No, it's fine.
Okay, I don't want to be out of order.
No, go.
Okay, great. So, hello, everybody. I'm President Davidson and members of the Board of Education. My name is Sue Devine, board member with Marysville Exempted Village School District. I'm here tonight in my capacity as a Central Region Executive Committee member with the Ohio School Boards Association. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes tonight to recognize the contribution of school board members in what can be both an uplifting and challenging job. Before I came tonight, I reviewed your strategic plan dimensions, and I was impressed with your dedication to ensuring that your students achieve academic success in a safe and nurturing environment by hiring, developing, and retaining highly effective staff, and while also engaging with students, parents, and your community as partners. Achieving those goals requires a considerable amount of work, lots of meetings, communications, and thoughtful consideration. As you all know, the time that you put in as board member does not always get noticed or appreciated. So I'm glad to be here tonight to publicly extend the thanks of a grateful association. OSBA is proud to share their feelings about the contributions you make in your community. In today's highly competitive world, communities large and small are faced with ever-increasing educational challenges. The way schools respond affects not only the life of every student, but the growth and future of each and every community as well. This responsibility is placed squarely on the shoulders of the men and women who serve on our school boards throughout Ohio. And this responsibility is exemplified by the leaders in this room tonight. Board members, thank you for all that you do. And tonight, I'm here to especially honor the boardsmanship and service of Tracy Davidson, who has completed 10 years of service. Tracy, your passion for education and supporting safe and welcoming environments for your students is commendable. Thank you so much for your dedication and commitment to the Westerville City Schools. I know your community is proud of you, and your fellow board members are proud of you, and OSBA is very proud of you. So I have a certificate to give you.
Thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the kind words. Okay, moving on. Reports. We do not have any this evening, which takes us to board meeting minutes. 5.1, approve the minutes of the Board of Education meeting held on Friday, June 9th, 2023, as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Any questions, comments here? Hearing none.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Dr. Nesterbaker?
Yes?
Mrs. Meyer?
I wasn't here, so I'm going to abstain.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. We do not have any public comments this evening, which takes us to financials. 7.1, approve the financial report and investments for May of 2023. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Nicole, would you like to chat with us about this?
Yes, I actually have a few things to chat with you tonight about. Thank you, President Davidson, members of the board. So this is our regular monthly financial report for the month ended May 31st, 2023. Our general fund, we had year-to-date receipts of $208 million, year-to-date expenditures in the general fund of $173.3 million. We ended the month of May in the general fund with an unencumbered fund balance of $185.9 million. For all funds, we had year-to-date receipts of $285 million, year-to-date expenditures of $286.7 million, and we ended with an unencumbered fund balance for all funds in total at $221.9 million. And that is all I have. Is there any questions from the board?
Hearing none?
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 7.2, resolution for the final appropriations for all funds for school year 2022 and 2023 fiscal year 2023. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
And it's you again.
Thank you again. So these are our final appropriations for the fiscal year 2023. We are making some adjustments to align with our year expenditures and funds. And then we also have an increase in the amount of claims in our self-insurance fund, so we had to bump that up a little bit. And then we have some building fund projects and some capital projects that are moving into the next year. So we're decreasing that, but it'll be in the next year. Any questions?
None?
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 7.3, resolution for the temporary appropriations for all funds for school year 2023 and 2024, fiscal year 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you again. So just like we have final appropriations, these are our temporary appropriations for the new fiscal year that starts on July 1st to get us started for the year so that we can make expenditures beginning on July 1st. And these are in line with our 5-year forecast. Any questions?
Hearing none?
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 7.4, may I have a motion for fund-to-fund transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you again. So these are our annual transfers that we do, and I'm sorry, my screen is not coming up. I've lost something. The annual transfers that we do for the Permanent Improvement Fund for turf replacement. So we have a special cost center that we hold funds in, and we allow it to build up over time for turf replacement. And then we also have a transfer to our food service fund so that the general fund will hold the negative lunch balances that are outstanding at the end of the year. Those balances will be added to the outstanding fee list in Power School going into the next school year. So families can expect to see those on their fee list for in Power School once that's live.
Any questions?
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 7.5, may I have a motion for fund-to-fund advances?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Sorry, I know it's a marathon, right? So thank you again. So fund-to-fund advances, it's been a while since we've done this. All of our grants with federal and state funds operate on a reimbursable basis, which means that we make expenditures first and then the state reimburses us for those expenditures. We are not able to carry a negative fund balance at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, unless we have a project cash request on file with the Ohio Department of Education at that time that covers the negative balance. The Ohio Department of Education cut off their project cash requests early this year at the beginning of June, and we had 3 payrolls this month. So a negative balance in these funds is unavoidable. So what this will allow us to do is advance money out of the general fund to cover the negative balances. And then once the cash comes in July or August, whenever they start doing that again, then we'll move the money back. So it's a very temporary measure and doesn't affect the overall balance of the general fund.
Okay.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Ottman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Is everyone okay if I take the personnel consent agenda as one? May I have a motion for 8.1 through 8.16 for the personnel consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cooper, welcome.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board, Ms. Marshall, Dr. Kellogg. This evening's personnel consent agenda includes action with regard to resignations, leaves of absence, contract status changes, one-time pays, and employment decisions. Additionally, we are seeking your approval of an MOU with the WEA regarding substitute pay rates over the summer. It's just clarification of the language in the contract. And an MOA with the OPC 719 regarding alignment of vacation accruals for 12-month employees. Also, I'm happy to have the opportunity to introduce you to Erin Cruz, our new assistant principal at Minerva Park Middle School. You approved her hire on June 9th, and she was able to join us this evening. So I just wanted to welcome Erin to the district, and we're very excited to be able to work with her in the coming year. At this time, I can take any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions, but it's so nice to see a proud child, I assume. Yeah.
My daughter, Amelia.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Ottman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Is it okay if I take old business as one, or would you like to do them one at a time? Okay. 9.1 through 9.4. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments in here? So we've got calendar, we've got 2 policies. Okay, hearing none?
Mrs. Ottman?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. New business, 10.1, we have a first reading of policy, I can't see it, 0164, notice of meetings. And Ms. Marshall's going to talk to us about this.
Yes, so this is a policy update from Neola, just kind of clarifying that board committees are also subject to our special public meeting notices that we send out. So an example of that is our Records Commission meeting that we had this evening. Neola is using that as an example in their policy. So that is a board committee, so it is a public board committee that's open to all of the open meetings rules and requirements. So we did a special meeting notice for that and then held that in the public this evening. So this is just a clarification of that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. 10.2, first reading policy 8462, student abuse and neglect. And Mr. McElroy, welcome.
Good evening, President Davidson, Vice President Meyer, members of the board, Dr. Kellogg, and Mrs. Marshall. Tonight you have before you revisions to Policy 8462, Student Abuse and Neglect. Policy 8462 has been revised to reflect the recent verbiage and procedures based on state law. Ohio's 134th General Assembly enacted Senate Bill 288. Beginning in the 2023-2024 school year, public schools are required to do the following. Students in grades K through 6 will be provided developmentally appropriate instruction in child sexual abuse prevention. Students in grades 7 through 12 will be provided developmentally appropriate instruction in sexual abuse, violence prevention, education. The parents and guardians of students who receive instruction related to dating violence prevention and sexual violence prevention will be notified that it is required curriculum, that they may examine the instructional materials upon request, and that a student may be excused from instruction at the parent or guardian's written request. And the program shall include training on child sexual abuse prevention presented by law enforcement officers or prosecutors who have experience in handling cases involving child sexual abuse or child sexual violence. Thus, it is recommended the board adopt the changes in policy 8462 as written.
Any questions here? Hearing none. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, moving on to recommended action. 11.1 donations. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second?
Excuse me.
And we're always so very grateful for each and every donation, so thank you very much.
Mrs. Meyer,
Yes.
Mrs. Altman,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson.
Yes. 11.2 out-of-state and overnight field trips. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Baldwin.
All right, good evening, President Davidson, members of the board, Dr. Kellogg, Ms. Marshall. I am excited to share with you this proposal for our Westerville Central Band, Choir, and Orchestra groups to go to New York City to perform and also participate in workshops with Broadway clinicians. And this will be happening in February over a long weekend. Students will miss one day of instruction, but it seems like a really exciting opportunity for our students. If students have any trouble paying for the trip, our booster groups are able to support those students. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Mrs. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Altman,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson.
Yes. 11.3, 2024 annual tax budget for the Westerville Public Library. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Marshall, you want to talk to us about this?
Yes, thank you. So we are considered the public library's taxing authority, in which case the Board of Education approves board members and also annual budgets for the public library. The Westerville Public Library Board of Trustees approved this budget on June 5th, 2023, and it's recommended that the Board of Education approve it as well.
Any comments? Questions?
Just because this is always confusing to people, I mean, this is, if you could just explain for a minute how this works.
So it has to do with tax law in Ohio. So we are considered the taxing authority. So if, for instance, the Westerville Public Library's footprint matches the school district's footprint, and if they were to be on the ballot for something, it would be something that would go through the school district in order to do that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 11.4, a resolution to approve the ESL Language Assistance Plan and the Evaluation Plan. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second?
And welcome, Ms. Brown.
Good evening, President Davidson and Vice President Meyer, members of the board, Dr. Kellogg, and Ms. Marshall. This past April, the Office of Civil Rights approved our language assistance plan and our evaluation plan of the language assistance plan. As a part of the process, the Office of Civil Rights has approved these documents and has requested board approval. The Language Assistance Plan serves to inform and instruct families about translation and interpretation services available to all ELL families throughout the district. The Evaluation Plan is the plan for the annual evaluation of the Language Assistance Plan. In order to best serve our families in need of language assistance, our next step in the process is board approval. Are there any questions?
Hearing none. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 11.5, resolution for impracticality of transportation. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
And welcome, Mr. Schneider.
Good evening, board members, President Davidson, Vice President Meyer, Dr. Kellogg, and Ms. Marshall. Before you this evening is a resolution to declare students impractical for transportation. Ohio law allows for public schools to determine impracticality of transportation after consideration of a number of factors, such as the cost of providing the transportation and the number of students being transported. This past April 24th, the board passed a resolution declaring 11 students impractical, and this evening before you is a list of 5 additional students that have been deemed impractical to transport. Our Department of Purchasing and Logistics has evaluated each of these students per the requirements of Section 3327.02 of the Ohio Revised Code and declared the listed students impractical to transport. Approving this resolution this evening would allow the district to offer payment in lieu of transportation in the manner provided per the Ohio Revised Code. The payment in lieu amount is determined by the Ohio Department of Education. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have this evening.
Any questions? No. Hearing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. And I know you have 2 to present, but we're just going to do one at a time. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. 11.5, resolution, the Pepsi agreement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board, Dr. Kellogg, and Ms. Marshall. For you tonight is the new 6-year agreement with Pepsi that would run through July 31st, 2029. Pepsi has committed in this agreement to a machine refresh where applicable throughout the district, and a slight increase in the commission rate on sales on all machines, and a continued cash sponsorship annually to the district for each year of this agreement. While they continue to give the free cases of Pepsi that we distribute to our elementary schools to use at family events. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but it'd be our recommendation to approve this contract.
Do we anticipate any difficulty in meeting the volume requirement?
I think we actually will not, because we have found a way to work through allowing these machines to be open during the day, as they will be stocked in student areas with USDA compliant, Smart Snack compliant guidelines to meet board policy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 11.7, resolution for the SMS snack vendor agreement. May I have a motion, please?
So moved?
Second.
So each secondary building has historically negotiated their own snack vending agreement for each of their buildings separately. This agreement was negotiated on behalf of all of these buildings and aligns all sites on the same agreement, which will allow for better district management and oversight. We received proposals from 2 vendors and have selected this SMS vending as the preferred supplier. This agreement will consolidate tracking and revenues collected for proper disbursement, and also complies with all USDA guidelines, Smart Snack standards for school nutrition, and complies with all board policies. So we will have some of these snack machines open during the school day as well for students. It'd be our recommendation for you to approve the contract. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Just one. Can you explain the use of the commissions? So in other words, those flow into the general fund, or those provided to the schools individually? How are those dealt with?
It's a great question. So with allowing them to be open during the day, the board has a non-compete clause with their food service operations that comply with USDA standards that aligns with what the USDA defines as a school day. Midnight the night before to 30 minutes after the last bell schedule, so that's building dependent. Revenues that are earned during the day that is defined will go towards the food service fund, as that's where it cannot compete with. And then afterwards, those go to the principal's accounts to be used for supporting student activities.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 11.8, an MOU SRO agreement with Westerville Police Department, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Brett McElroy back. And I know you have 3, but we're just going to go one at a time with these 2.
We'll do one at a time?
One at a time.
Let me
That's
read
okay.
it 3 different times?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Good evening, President Davidson, Vice President Meyer, members of the board, Dr. Kellogg, and Ms. Marshall. Tonight, I have the opportunity to present 3 memoranda of understandings, beginning with the first, with Westerville Division of Police. We also have these MOUs highlight the great relationship the district has with the Westerville City Schools and the Westerville Police Department. As you see, I have Chief Chandler here. I'm not in trouble. Yes, Chief. See, right, yeah. Beginning the upcoming school year, we will have an SRO in our middle schools and high schools to include Minerva Park Middle School. But this focus in this particular one is for Westerville City Schools working with Westerville Police Department. And the SROs in our schools will have the focus of mentoring and problem solving, education, crime prevention, and enforce the law. Thus, is recommended that the board approve the MOU between Westerville City Schools and the Westerville Division of Police.
I just want to say really quickly, I truly value the relationship we have with the Westerville Police Department, and it's been wonderful to watch all these years the relationships that the officers build with the kids and the staff and keep our community safe, and we greatly appreciate you.
I want to second that. The partnership has been and will continue to be extremely important to all of us and all of us within the community beyond our school walls. It's a remarkably strong partnership. It has done a great deal to build bridges within our community, between police and young people, between police and families, and also to make sure that our buildings are as safe as they can be. So we thank you very much for your willingness to partner with us. It's good stuff. I do think, if it's all right with you, there's one very short bit I would like to focus on. It's not really a question, it's a, yeah, I really like this. We have SROs assigned to Blendon, Heritage, Walnut Springs, North, and South through the Westerville agreement. And then in addition, we will be collaborating with police agencies to clearly designate current or additional SROs to support elementary schools based on local jurisdiction. This is important, and it underscores both the district and the police department's commitment to our young people at all ages. So that's it. Yeah, glad to see that in there.
I want to echo those comments too. Thank you for being here, Chief. We really appreciate it and the partnership every day. And I also know that there's a lot of work that goes into this kind of agreement. So I just wanted to give an opportunity for you all who worked on it, Mr. McElroy, to highlight the pieces of this that you're excited about. I know it's not exactly like previous agreements, so just wanted to give that chance to call out the things that you're feeling, looking forward to. Maybe you're a little bit different or articulated differently than in the past.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Altman. You may or may not know that I was a school resource officer years ago. And the work that I did years ago, I believe was great work. But the work that I see now that is done in the schools with our school resource officers and our first responders is amazing. So this memorandum of understanding really helps me see that we're going to have a focus on our children, that we're asking our officers to focus on engaging with our children as often as possible, so they can develop relationships with our students and our staff and vice versa. And I think that's just an amazing approach to policing, to be able to allow officers to be seen as good people and to help pour into the lives of youth and into our staff. And that's why I highlighted those 4 main roles, because those 4 main roles are the foundation of policing and will continue to be the foundation of policing in our schools. And just like you said, to have the chief here to stand and support our students, I look forward to that too. And I just have to take time that individuals like Mr. Hershiser and Mr. Dorn have helped to forge those relationships with our police officers that allow us to do what we do today. And I say we because I took an oath years ago as well. And I think that approach in our schools will help children to make better decisions and to be better citizens in this community and in our country.
Thank you so much. And Thanks for all of your work in this and for having that, that approach to putting this together. Thanks.
So I want to just echo my colleagues' comments and just really appreciate all of the efforts that have been made and all the training that goes into this and the patience of working with a lot of children and a lot of diverse issues. I know sometimes that can be challenging. I myself remember when this SRO started many years ago, and I had a great relationship with our SRO at Westerville North. And I love to see how well this has expanded and the mentoringship, so thank you.
You ready?
Yep.
Wait, Chief's going
Or do you want to say
How
something?
do you tell a man no when he would have done? Well, I just wanted to say that I don't know if the public's aware of this, but I was a probationary employee at Westerville when the SRO program started, so it's been around for a while. And also having supervised the community services section on my way up, I mean, we've worked with the schools a lot. We've come a long way from when I was brand new, when we were working special duty in the schools instead of having school resource officers. And the mention of the elementary schools is near and dear to my heart. I've seen the tragedies across the country over the last year, and I really felt it was something we need to explore. And also, our elementary schools are truly our neighborhood schools. And City Council's Safe and Vibrant Neighborhoods goal, I think that the possibility of adding SROs to elementaries fits into that goal as well, because most of the parking issues or the traffic issues that we have, right, will come down to elementary schools for pickups and drop-offs. So if we can have school resource officers to help solve neighborhood problems and make sure that the relationship with the school district and the neighborhoods is good as well, I think it's a winner all the way around. So I just want to thank you as well as City Council and City Manager Monica Ireland for allowing us to explore that possibility. So thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief, just a quick question.
Yep.
And I know that right now they're not in the elementary schools, and I see that Blendon Township's not here. And is that something that you guys are working with them closely?
Right now, we're just working on our own jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we don't have any control over budgets in
Sure.
in Genoa or Blendon or Minerva Park. So right now, we're just looking at the 9 elementary schools that lie within the corporation limits of Westerville.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Right? Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 11.9, MOU SRO agreement with Genoa Police Department. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
So tonight, we also have an opportunity to present a memorandum of understanding between Westerville City Schools and the Genoa Township Police Department. This MOU also highlights a great relationship we have with Genoa Township Police and its local first responders to have a focus on student, staff, and visitor safety. Beginning this upcoming school year, we will continue to have SROs in Genoa and in the high school. Again, with the same focus, the 4 areas of main roles will be mentoring, education, prevention, and enforcing the law. Thus, I recommend the board approve the memorandum of understanding between Westerville City Schools and Genoa Township Police Department.
Questions or comments here?
Just thank you to them as well.
Yep, and thank you to them for getting a dog, because that's what we hear about all the time, like this amazing new police officer dog, so it's awesome.
I would love to speak about that, too. I mean, I have to say that the officers in Genoa do have dogs to help, and I think it's a new approach to policing, that Genoa had the wherewithal to add dogs in our schools to really help support our children, to see police officers in a different light. And I have to be honest, at first I wasn't real sure about SROs with dogs in our schools. But we met and we talked, and I visited the schools, you know, and I've met the dogs, and it's amazing, especially at the middle school, when students will see the dog and the officer, and it settles the calm nerves at times, and they know there's additional resource to help them. So I just have to say that it is a new approach to policing, And we in Westerville City Schools have the opportunity to lead that charge.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 11.10, an MOU SRO agreement with the Village of Minerva Park. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
One more time. I have the opportunity to present our last and our third memorandum of understanding between Westerville City Schools and Minerva Park Police Department. This MOU also highlights a great relationship the district has with our local police department and our first responders to help protect Westerville City Schools staff, students, and visitors. Beginning the upcoming school year, again, we will have a school resource officer in our high schools to include Minerva Park Middle School, with the same focus of mentoring, problem solving, education, crime prevention, and law enforcement. Thus, I recommend the board approve this MOU as well.
Any questions or comments?
I do have a question. Given that Westerville is thinking about, working with the elementary schools, is Genoa and Minerva Park also thinking about working with the elementary schools and SROs?
I have to say, because of the size, of those particular areas, Genoa police are always assisting currently at our elementary school. And at Minerva Park, the school is directly across from the middle school. And we've had those conversations that the primary focus will be in the middle school, but if there is a need across the street, Minerva will be there to serve.
I do appreciate Minerva Park stepping up, because Minerva Park is a small village,
Yes.
and this represents a significant commitment for them to do so.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Public comments this evening, we do not have any, which takes us to board comments. Would anyone like to go first? Does anyone have any comments?
I do.
Okay.
Congratulations again to, it just blows me away when I hear the times that some of those students run, and their stats. It's incredible, so congratulations to them. And I also want to acknowledge Dr. Kellogg. Yeah, I'm going to miss having you to my right hand here. Not that you're my right-hand person, I'm just saying. Well, there's that. But really appreciate, our district has come a long way in the last decade, and appreciate your leadership and all of that. So wish you all the best in helping Westerville and lots of other districts in your next role. So thanks for that. Yeah.
I already made my comments to John earlier this evening. I just second what you said, Jen. Thank you, John. All good wishes. And don't forget us as you put all of those wonderful plans into play.
So I want to echo my colleagues' comments for the students, and welcome Aaron again. And John, thank you for all the wonderful things that have happened under your leadership. Really appreciate it, and wish you all the best in your exciting new role, and look forward to hearing about it. And then I have a legislative update.
Great.
I wish I didn't. I wish they would go home. Yes, it is very busy. House Bill 33 is our state operating budget, and last Thursday, the House voted to not concur with the Senate's proposed changes to House Bill 33, so that means it goes to conference committee, and they have been meeting pretty regularly. As a reminder, the budget must be finalized by July 1st, so there are only a few remaining days they have to finalize the state budget, and that's why they're working kind of around the clock. There are a few important things to pull out in regards to public school funding. The Fair School funding formula. The Senate and House versions use fiscal year 22 salary data in the base cost calculation. Prior, it was fiscal year 18 data. And while this is great, the Senate's budget proposal for the Fair School funding formula does not use median income component of the local calculation. rather using the federal gross adjustment income. So what does this really mean? The median income is a far more stable measure of school district income levels than is the total federal adjusted gross income, resulting in a difference in the House versus Senate versions with a more than $245 million decrease funding for public schools in the Senate version. And then for Ed Choice vouchers, when Governor DeWine introduced his fiscal year 24-25 budget, he proposed an increase in the eligibility level for the voucher program from 250% of the federal poverty level to 400% of the federal poverty level. The House further expanded who would be eligible to 450% of the federal poverty level. So this is an income level of $135,000 for a family of four, and increases the amount that each student receives due to the use of the fiscal year 22 median income data being used to calculate the base cost. Now, the Senate went even further, expanding the voucher program by eliminating the income threshold entirely, but limits how much a student can receive based on the income. So the Ohio expenditures on vouchers are slated to increase significantly under all three versions of the budget compared to current levels. The House budget will increase voucher funding by a total of $444.7 million over the fiscal year 24-25 biennium. Voucher funding in FY25 under the House plan is estimated by the Legislative Service Commission to be $256.9 million, or 43%, actually more than 43% higher than fiscal year 23, which is at $595 million. The Senate budget will increase the voucher funding by a total of $816.8 million over the fiscal year 24-25 biennium. So voucher funding in the fiscal year 25 under the Senate plan is estimated to be 75% higher than fiscal year 23. So now's the time to call your legislators and have a conversation with them. And then, can I say good luck to Ron? And just, I've recently learned that Ron's last night's tonight, right?
Yep.
And so I just really wanted to say thank you. Thanks for all your humor as well.
So quickly, I also wanted to echo that. Thank you to Ron for all these years of filming all these board meetings, and he will continue to come to graduation with us, is what I'm told. And he is the voice at Westerville North for football and basketball, or just football?
Football, soccer, track, and basketball.
Ooh, football, soccer, track, and basketball. So Ron won't be going far, and we look forward to a partnership still with him. So thank you very much, Ron. And I would like to wish Dr. Kellogg good luck, truly, to you. And then I would like to give, I know there's not a lot of people here, but at least put on record where we're at with the superintendent search. So we received input from nearly 1,000 individuals representing our community, staff, and students during the engagement phase of the process. The feedback that was collected resulted in the creation of a leadership profile and summary of desired characteristics, and those are on our website if you would like to look at those. And we're going to use that information, the board will use that information as we seek out a superintendent. So we've listened to what you've said, and we really are going to take that to find someone that will fit that. After that phase, we have a recruitment phase. Well, we're in the recruitment phase, apologize, after we collected the information. The job posting went live on May 9th and will close at the end of this week. Following that, we will have a selection phase. We'll narrow down the candidates who will receive an interview. The first round of interviews will be held during the week of July 24th, and the second round will be held in early August. We will then identify a top candidate and get to work with them under contract. Once the contract is in place, we will hit the transition phase, and this is the final phase of the process. New superintendent will assume their role with the district and work with others to become more familiar with the day-to-day responsibilities. This includes getting to know more about our community and spending a significant amount of time in schools as the superintendent meets our staff and students. In the meantime, former Deputy Superintendent Mark Hershiser will serve as our superintendent. So that is where we are at. And then, Dr. Kellogg, would you like to say anything this evening?
I just want to add to the budget piece.
because that still gets under my craw even at this point, but just a reminder that that increase in vouchers covers 10% of the school-age children in Ohio, and the decrease in K-12 education represents, I think, over 80% of the public schools here. So nice flip of the coin there. Just thank you to the board for your support and your work over these past years as well. As I said in the room before with our visitors, this is an outstanding board who understands the role and purpose of public education, and I appreciate your commitment and your support of me, and wish you all very well as you move forward. I will be around and keeping a close eye on things, just to be able to celebrate all the good stuff that's going. Thank you to the staff who have just been outstanding. They're just a talented group of people with a lot of passion for kids, and to the community at large and all the leaders here. This is a rich community with a lot going on, and I will tell you, as I look towards this next adventure, what's coming is big and and offers a lot of potential for our region and for our students, and I look forward to working with people on that basis to see what we can do here. And I know I'll be going around saying oftentimes, well, you should see how we do it in Westerville. So the bragging will continue. So thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
Okay. 14.1, the board will meet in regular session on July 7th, 2023 at 8 a.m. here at the Early Learning Center. And with that, may I have a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing employment and compensation of a public employee.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. And with that, we're going to move into executive session, and when we're done, we'll come out and close out the meeting here. Thank you, everyone. We are back from executive session and ready to end the meeting, so I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes?
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. And with that, we're adjourned.
It's 8:03.